So in this book, there is a mention of frugality, searched in the back, whatever you call this stuff in the back, the index, a search for word frugal, and I found frugality. So it says it's on page 124. So the mention of frugality is, let me read this to you. And this is the Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude book by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone, of course. And on page 124, it says, frugality. Make no expense, but to do good to others or yourself. That is, waste nothing. So waste nothing. When you think of our current lifestyle and the way industry is and the way products are made, companies make products that you use one time and you throw away. Companies make products that are designed to, I guess you could say, have an end of life. The end of life of a product is designed into the manufacture of the product. Say, for example, you buy a printer for your office, right? You want your printer to be functional and to work for you all the time. But time goes by, months, weeks, years, they tend to slip by, and your printer just doesn't seem to be doing the job very well. You clean it, you readjust whatever you can, right? But when you go and you find somebody that might be able to work on that printer and fix it, you find out that that printer is actually antiquated, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. And you find out that it costs more to actually pay for the labor and parts to fix that printer than it is to go out and buy a new up-to-date printer. So we have a throwaway society. We have a throwaway industry. We have a throwaway way of being in our civilization. So it used to be, you could have a shop where you repaired stuff, right? It was financially smart for companies to go to your shop or to send their stuff to your shop to be fixed and pay the labor, the cost of the parts, and shipping, right? Well, it's no longer that way. Now it's a throwaway society. Landfills are full of throwaway stuff. Throwaway cell phones, so throwaway printers, throwaway laptop computers, even throwaway automobiles. So what do you end up with? The opposite of being thrifty, the opposite of being frugal. Frugality is about not wasting. Like, don't waste your time, don't waste your money, don't waste, things that you normally throw away, like coffee grounds. Don't waste your coffee grounds. Go take your coffee grounds and put them out in the dirt. Earthworms love it. You become earthworm friendly. Your yard, your garden, right? And if you have earthworms and they're out there and they're enjoying their environment, they're creating good soil for your garden, good soil for your plants. Eggshells, for instance. A lot of people, they throw away their eggshells. Why? Because they're not eating it. They don't see any use in it. But if you bake your eggshells and you crunch them up and then continue that crunching up until it's a fine powder, and you take that fine powder and you sprinkle it around your plants and you mix it into the dirt, that provides nutrients and minerals and things that your plants need. Calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, all that great stuff. So being frugal, living a frugal life, you need to change how you think, right? There are things in people's lives where they don't know, they just don't know, right? It's like they may have been brought up in a household that just throws things into the trash until the trash bag's running over every, and then they have somebody in the family whose job or responsibility was put on that person to go and bag that up, get it out of the house, go put it in the trash can, haul that trash can down to the road so that this truck can come by, pick it up and dump it in the back and haul it away. How much of that stuff that goes away in trash could you use in your gardens? How much stuff that goes away in your trash could you feed to your chickens? How much stuff goes away in your trash that just goes into a landfill and sits there forever? I read an article about a guy who, I think he was over in India, but he was taking plastic, like milk jugs, juice jugs, weird, just things like that. And he would put them through this shredder. The shredder would shred them up. And after they're shredded, they would go into a kind of like a mold process to where they're heated up and compressed. And whenever they'd come out of that mold process of being heated up and compressed and cooled, they were in shapes of things that were functional, like a tricycle or a bench that you could sit on, or odds and ends like that. So he was creating things based on trying not to waste. So a mention of frugality. I honestly thought this book would be have a little bit more about, that kind of stuff. But this one's more about your mental attitude than it is about stuff like that. But it does have a mention of frugality. And in here it says, make no expense, but to do good to others or yourself. That is, waste nothing. I'm going to touch on a subject here that a lot of people find disgusting. Used to be, and still is in some parts of the world, but it used to be over in European countries. Like think of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England, right? Just kind of focus on that. Used to be, right? Because there was no centralized plumbing for sewage and all that good stuff, right? People kind of had to collect and dispose of, their urine, their feces, and all of that. Well, in the cities, right, there were some cities where, that was just dumped out in the street, and the streets were designed to channel that off until it ran off into some creek or river or something like that. But it got to the point to where they found out that plants were growing healthier, stronger, and more productive in areas where that runoff was, and where it collected. So they created a thing where people had jobs where they would go out at nighttime and they would collect all this stuff, from all the different people that were, like buckets or, cisterns or whatever it was that they, were storing this stuff in. And they would gather it up and collect it, and they would take it out of the city. Well, what they were doing was they were taking that and they were putting it in piles and basically letting it compost a little bit, and then selling it to farmers for them to use that in their gardens, right? It became good dirt. It became good soil. And the farmers were having productive fields, making vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. And they were taking these and turning it around, selling them to the people in the cities so that the people could have, good food. They still do that in certain places around the world. And when you get your food, right, from other places around the world, there's a very good possibility that your food was grown in that kind of environment. That, in a way, is a type of frugality. Waste nothing. I know that's kind of weird, but, people do what people got to do.